Do you know your refurb costs? Okay, so if you're implementing the BRRR strategy, buy, refurbish, refinance, rent out, or if you're flipping properties, you need to know how much things are costing. Okay, now again, you can ask people, of course you can, but the people that you ask need to be people in the game, need to be people that are doing this, every month, every couple of months, and so on. They need to be active investors, not, oh, well, I've got this mate and he charges this much, or well, I've got this other mate and he charges that much. For you to make sure you're obviously getting the best return on capital employed, your best ROI, whatever it is the metric is you're looking at, you need to be able to analyze each deal that lands on your desk, or when you're looking on Rightmove, whatever it is. So for us now, with our BRRRs, we've got one, hopefully we're going to collect the keys to in the next 3 weeks, hopefully. That's going to need a full back to brick refurbishment. It's only a 2-bed terrace. However, if you're watching this and you haven't done any refurbishments before, or if you're looking to do your first one, or you've done one but it wasn't that much, and now you're moving on to bigger ones, then hopefully this video will help. But do me a favor though, please like the video and please subscribe to the channel so I know who's watching the videos and so on, and who's gaining things for them. So on average now these are average figures that we paid over the last couple of years, really. So starting from the top down, really, if it needs a new roof, again, you can argue now, how big's the roof? Is it just a 1-bed back-to-back terrace? Is it a 2-bed terrace? Is it a 3-bed semi? However, if it's just an up and over roof, you're probably looking at about 4.5, 5 grand, something like that. Now, again, you might be able to get it a little bit cheaper. You might be able to get it maybe a little bit dearer, but nobody should be coming back to you saying it's going to be 15 or 20 grand. Okay, probably about 4.5, 5 grand. Again, with scaffolding on 2 sides, you might need to have it on 3 sides if it's a gable end one. But you're talking about 4.5, 5 grand for a new roof. There are other things. Again, I don't want to make this too detailed. Is it slate that's then going to go back on, or is it tiles that and then all need replacing? So the things that you're going to ask the roofer, get 2 or 3 quotes, you get a ballpark figure, and always follow your gut. Working down then. So again, I'm just going through now the back-to-back we're looking to do in a few weeks to strip it out. Okay, so we're talking the kitchen's gone, the bathroom's going to be gone, internal doors gone, skirting boards, architrave, any woodwork, the spindles on the stairs, banisters on the stairs, carpets. What else? I think that's pretty much it, really. Basically, ripping it all back out. We're probably going to talk about 1,500 quid there, 2 grand again. The property might only be a small property, it might be a bigger property. So please don't obviously say, well, Dervish me said that it's going to be this much and you're coming in at 3,200 or 3.5 grand. It depends on how much work is there. But what I want this video to be is, if anybody comes back to you and says, oh yeah, to strip it out, it's going to be 10 grand, then that they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes and just trying to get as much money as they can out of you. So just be aware of that. The strip out though should also include removal of the waste. So make sure that when you're saying how much it is to strip it out, it also includes removing the waste, not just them dumping it in the front garden. Okay, so to strip it out and to remove the waste. Then you want to start putting it back together. So if I was looking at to rewire now, again, I'm going to use this 2-bed terrace that we're purchasing in a couple of weeks. You're talking at about, it's been about 4 grand for us for new rewire, which will include the new, consumer unit, the new fuse box, a couple of extra sockets in there as well. We always change those crappy single sockets to double sockets. Always make sure there's more sockets in each room, especially the kitchen. Downstairs, we always tend to put spotlights in. Normally in the terraced houses, 4 in the front room slash lounge, 4 in the kitchen, and so on, rather than the drop down pendants. Then going upstairs, we'll probably stick with the pendants. But again, it depends on what we're looking to achieve in our end user, really. If it's just a buy to let, again, they're always done to good standards because we always manage to push past the current ceiling price. I want it to stand out so people look at it and go, and it just goes straight away. It's not hanging on Rightmove forever. So you're probably looking at about 4 grand there, approximately. But other things, like I said, if you're only having one pendant, one drop down in each room, that'll bring the price down. If you're not having any new sockets, having any new sockets put in, that'll bring the price down. So you just be aware now that these prices are giving you, they've got a bit of leeway with them, but nobody should be coming back to you with a 2-bed terrace saying it's going to be 12 grand for a new rewire because you'll need this, and they're going to try and overwhelm you with all these things that you need. 4, 5 grand, something like that. And that should include the EICR certificates and all that type of stuff to make sure it's all up to regs. Plastering, some of the things. Now, this one I know, again, I keep thinking about the one that we're investing in a couple of weeks. It's going to be back to brick, really, because it doesn't look like it's been touched for probably, I don't know, the 120 years that it's been around. So that, I mean, all the plaster's coming off and then it'll need to be boarded again and skimmed over and so on. So we're probably going to be looking at that. Maybe 6-7 grand there or thereabouts. If it was just to skim, again, these are ballpark figures. For us skimming rooms, we always think it right, it's maybe like 500-600 quid for the walls and the ceiling and so on. You may be able to get it cheaper, but if somebody's coming to back in saying, oh, I can do it for 100 quid or I can plaster this entire house for 300 quid, you should be thinking, do you know what, I don't think so. Okay, plasterers, I suppose, like any decent trade, can charge what they want, but you're probably looking at about 250, 175, 200 quid for a plasterer in our area. I'm sure when you go down south, they might be charging 300, 400. I don't really know. So yeah, that's a plastering side of things. A new kitchen and carpentry, maybe. Again, it's down to your spec. If you're looking to flip the property, then I'd always go for higher type stuff, higher end stuff. So thicker worktop, a better sink, better taps, soft close doors, anything like that. Fancier finishes on the kitchen and in the bathroom to make it stand out more. If it's one of our standard rentals, again, still a new kitchen, still a new bathroom, very nice, always better than what was in there before. You're probably looking at about 800 to 1200 maybe to fit, possibly 1500 again, depending if it's a U shape, depending on if it's an L shape with an island, depending on the size, how many units. But what I want you to understand here, if somebody comes back to you and says, oh, this Howden's kitchen's coming in at 20 grand, supply and fit, you're going to think, I don't know about that. So just always get a couple of quotes so that you know whereabouts you are. Never go for the cheapest. And again, getting the 2, 3, 4 quotes gives you a range on where you're working with. And then just follow your gut and think, right, I like that person. They've got decent reviews. I've heard about, they got recommended by somebody else who I trust. So I'm going to go with that person, even if they are dearer. Bathroom, again, you're probably looking at about 3 grand really, and it's just for a simple bathroom. I'm not talking like floating sinks and that type of thing. Roll top baths, freestanding baths. I'm just talking, a classic, probably 1700-1800 bath tin. Excuse me. Maybe a vanity unit, maybe not maybe a toilet, definitely a toilet. But then the expense with the bathroom is as well. Are you having tiles on the floor? Are you having tiles on the side or on the walls? Are you having like what we call, like some people call them the wet panels, the aqua panels? What are you going for there on the side? What are you doing on the floor? Is it just going to be light vinyl or is it going to be tiles? Again, it always depends on your finish. So that's roughly for the bathroom. Electrics, what else? Roof. What else did we do there? Plastering, decoration. So for us, we're probably going to look at about 1500 for them to paint, including obviously the mist coat, the one that they put in, after the plaster's dried, making sure that they're painting everything, woodwork, walls, ceilings, like I said, about 1500 really, there or thereabouts. But a decent decorator will obviously make it look well. We've tried it before where we've got somebody and, looking back now 10, 12 years ago, I knew deep down I shouldn't have even given them a chance, but I did, and it was more trouble than they were worth. Turning up late, going early, you know, always never ordering enough, having one paintbrush doing everything, classic stuff. But try and learn from my mistakes, learn from my experience. Some of you might have read some of the blogs I've put out before. Try and have a look on our website. That's not the website, that's an old school one. So we'll get that changed. The website is my name, dervishdervish.com. So not Dervish Mentoring, dervishdervish.com. Check it out. I help my mentees, improve the knowledge, the cash flow, and the wealth. I do that for property investors and also where I made relative amount of money in martial arts schools. Now, based on that as well, I'll see if I've got one here. Apologies if I am turning around. Yep, there's one there. Even though that's for martial arts school owners and you're a property investor, I would look at spending £12-13 and get that on Amazon. And there'll be a few things that you'll be able to pick up from there with mindset, with systems, with how to grow a business, how to increase your cash flow, how to keep hold of the profits that you could bring across into your property journey. So just a little plug there, and not for the £2 or the £3 I'll get from Amazon. Okay. It's more to help you along your journey. So what have we covered there? Real front doors, back doors, windows, and so on. If it's a mid-terrace, obviously you've normally got 2 windows. You might have 3 at the front and a front door. Hopefully you've got a front door. Then at the back, you've generally got 3 windows: the kitchen, the back bedroom, and the bathroom, and then a back door. So you're talking 5 windows, maybe 6, front door and a back door. Probably about £4,000, maybe £5,000. But again, depends on, are you having just plain white? Are you going for the fancy grey? Are you going for a really fancy colour on your front door and your back door? Are you having it 3/4 glass, half glass? But one thing that I would suggest, and one thing that we've been doing over the last few projects, always have a decent looking front door composite, because if you are, like I said, doing the BRRR strategy, you want your value to come out and go, straight away at first impression, they haven't scrimped on the front door. Imagine having a door there that you've obviously it's clean, it's still working, but it's a few years old, and you thought, do you know what, I'm not going to invest in a new door because if it's not broke, don't fix it. But you're putting your valuer then thinking, right, well, that's a little bit old. Let's see what inside's like. You want them coming in thinking, as soon as they open the door, as soon as they knock on the door, right, this looks like they've covered all angles. So yeah, just always be aware that refurbs cannot be done on a 10 grand budget unless you're obviously a builder, you're in the trade, and you're using your time to do it. Okay, if you're a hands-off investor like me with a portfolio, because I don't want my phone ringing, I don't want to be going down, checking on tenants. I'm not a landlord, I'm a property investor. I know these figures because again, we've paid invoices, done refurbs now over the last 6, 7, 8 years. Back to brick refurbs. Sometimes there were smaller refurbs, but most of the time we're like picking up properties, investing in properties that need a lot of work, so we can just strip everything back and put it all back together again. Hopefully then pull out a large chunk of our money to then move on to the next property there as well. Build on the cash flow, build on the wealth year after year after year after year. Anyway, thank you very much. I hope this helps a few people. If you'd like help on your property journey, maybe read some of the blogs, like I said, on dervish.com, not that website. But get in touch, all right? Learn from my experience. I've been a property investor since 2007. We've got a reasonable portfolio, buy to lets. We're always renovating, really. So we're quite familiar with the property industry and how things work. Get in touch, and I hope I could help. All the best. Take care. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so, and like as well, because that would massively help. All the best, everybody. Take care. Good luck.